Resnick from the IRC Advisory Group. Today, I'd like to talk about IIoT convergence, which we certainly consider to be one of the foundations for digital transformation. And, some of the things we want to cover a little bit today is what drives IIoT convergence. I mean, what's the cause and why it's been such a hot topic over the last several years. And actually what makes it the foundation for digital transformation, because you really can't have digital transformation if you really have not begun the IIoT convergence process. We can talk a little bit about some of the shifting market demands caused by what we consider to be the new normal. A lot of the new normal was driven as a result of the pandemic, and that certainly caused a great number of changes the way people are operating. And we're going to also talk a little bit about how IIoT convergence is evolving, and some of that evolution is as a result of the pandemic. We're also going to see where today, especially, the needs of IT and OT are a lot more common than you think. I think at one time people thought of them as things where they had completely different objectives and expectations of outcomes. But I think you're going to see that there's a lot more in common with IT and OT convergence today than there has been in the past. And ultimately, it has to be the benefit of everybody in the manufacturing and processing community, because otherwise there's no really need to go through this whole IIoT convergence process, and then we'll wrap things up a bit. So again, something we've been hearing a lot about for the last several years, the whole IIoT convergence phenomenon. And one of the things that there used to be when this process was beginning, the IT side would sometimes look at OT and say, wow, your people are using a lot of products and a lot of technology that are pretty old and really don't keep up with all the latest trends in technology, especially in areas such as, let's say, cybersecurity. And then, of course, on the OT side, the challenge becomes you don't understand real time. You don't realize the fact that this is something that has to be in real time, and that it's something that you just can't decide to stop a process or run a report. Operations typically have to be running and available 24/7, because the worst problem you can ever have in OT is downtime. So that's an area, those are two areas where each group had to kind of get to understand each other's pain, shall we say. But again, you don't have a foundation in digital transformation if you're not beginning this whole IIoT convergence process. And digital transformation has been one of the great accelerators of IIoT convergence. It takes this tighter integration, because there's no way that you can get the data that you need today, run the appropriate analytics software, use that data to operate your business, send that data, whether it be edge-mounted devices or data that would be up and they sent to the cloud. You can't do that today without certainly the combination of both IT and OT. And it's something that in many factories, it's really part of the IT-OT convergence is part of the digital transformation journey. At no point can you really progress with that journey if you have not really begun the process itself. So digital transformation is obviously one of the factors that drives this to happen, but at the same time, you really can't go through the digital transformation process if you're not beginning the IT-OT convergence as it takes. Now, let's talk a little bit about the pandemic and the new normal. And what it's really come up with is companies at one time, especially in their digital transformation journey, were always just looking for the metrics. What is the ROI? Why I can't really go through the digital transformation process unless you can show me I can measure what's that return on investment. But now all of a sudden, as a result of the pandemic, you started to have the variable, which we call operational resilience and business resilience. But it's like, now, is my business set up that I can take a disaster, whether it be a pandemic issue, whether it be a climate change issue, whether it be a geopolitical issue? Because what's happening is that now you have to make sure that your company can continue to operate. Can you maintain the real-time visibility of your supply chain? And can you react quickly to market shifting? Can you react quickly to the fact that the people who are running your plant may now be having to work remotely? And they need that real-time visibility and control so they can actually make do the right monitoring and make the right decisions, even if they're not physically within the plant. So what this has done is it's really broken down a lot of these boundaries. And I can say one thing with this new normal is it's probably accelerated the digital transformation process much faster than if the pandemic had not happened. It's a shame we had to have a pandemic to accelerate it like this, but it certainly has moved things along out of necessity. But again, that necessity is to build the operational resilience to run these factories and plants today. But again, without the ITOT convergence, you're not going to be able to have this kind of flexibility and agility that you need to, for example, have that real-time visibility on your supply chain and the ability to make quick decisions and the ability to operate your plant from any location. You know, and this has really created a lot of new methodologies for this new normal. And but it's also, you know, how do we protect the personnel? How do we install the right cybersecurity protection to make sure that if we are operating the plant from a remote location, that we've taken the necessary precautions and we have the appropriate, you know, firewall technology. But the thing is that you really can't do that if you don't have your ITOT convergence story moving forward. So again, do you want to operate remotely? You want to be able to achieve that faster business value? You have to be able to make sure that, again, that no situation of not having access to the plant or not being able to get your workforce into the plant is not going to be paralyzing for you. And if your supply chain is cut off from one area, they're able to quickly reestablish a supply chain from another region or another geography or another supplier. So it's going to change the way that people work and the way that organizations are designed and the way that workflow is processed, the way that teams now connect to each other. And it's really going to provide a higher level of visibility and transparency throughout the organization, because that's what it's take to properly operate in this new normal. So in some respects, it's a shame that it took a horrific disaster like a pandemic, but it has really accelerated a lot of these things that may have been 3 to 5 years from actually occurring. So we're all familiar with the old traditional IT and OT groups, where the OT side of the people that are running the operations and the process of the plant, and the IT portion of the people that are doing the, that are responsible for a lot of the programming, cybersecurity, dealing with cloud technology, virtualization, analytics, for example. But what we found is that we're now needing to put these groups together. And what's happening is we're starting to lose that space between the groups. So it's almost becoming one single group. So the companies that are the most furthest along with ITOT convergence, actually, we have a new term at ARC called ITOT fusion. And that's how we see it all evolving. Because again, if we look at the needs of IT and OT from the past, and then as we have seen them come together, where issues like cybersecurity and standards and the issue of no downtime and being able to have pure measurements for ROI and ROA to help justify projects, and certainly the incorporation over the last few years of industrial Internet of Things. And we've seen this begin to come together, but now, again, we're seeing this all become fused together. So eventually these groups are just going to become one. And as the needs become the same, the drivers become the same, now you truly have what we call at ARC as ITOT fusion. And think of some of the benefits that you get as a result of having this right now, you know, as far as minimizing process variability and minimizing process upsets, using less energy, increasing the quality of your product and having fewer product reruns and less waste. Maintaining the health of your assets better, which is certainly going to help to eliminate or minimize any unscheduled downtime, and pull the workforce in and give them greater engagement, and be able to predict a problem of a potential failure before it actually happens, so you can take the predictive and prescriptive actions as you would certainly by able to deploy the analytics software. And the whole issue of cognitive learning, because as now you have the ability to take for artificial intelligence and machine learning, but also from the human side to be able to leverage technologies like augmented reality and virtual reality to give you a better perspective as to what's going on in the plant, and also be able to provide training as well, certainly on the virtual reality side. So if we, in summary, we see IT/OT confusion, and as that's evolving as part of the digital transformation process, it's really going to be able to help companies get the most out of their workforce, to really streamline work processes and better adapt to this new normal. May get the kind of insights it needs to run the business more efficiently and from any location, because you have that operational resilience built into your business. You're now not going to longer be paralyzed by issues of your supply chain. If there's an issue with one supplier, the ability to make quick decisions, or if there's a quick change in the marketplace in product and in consumer demand, to make those fast decisions in real time, almost bringing real time to making supply chain decisions. So it really takes advantage of the best of both worlds, best of the IT world, best of the OT world, and fusing it all together, all accelerated by the new normal. So with that, I want to thank you very much. And we got some great speakers in this session that'll talk about their IT/OT stories as well. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary D'Alba, and I am the Global Industrial Network Solutions Design Manager for SKF Group. I'd like to thank ARC for inviting me to be a presenter here today. And I will be discussing IT/OT convergence and the digital transformation journey within SKF. SKF is a Swedish bearing and seal manufacturing company founded in Gothenburg, Sweden in 1907. The company manufactures and supplies bearings, seals, lubrication and lubrication systems, maintenance products, mechatronic products, power transmission products, condition monitoring systems, and related services globally. SKF is the world's largest bearing manufacturer. It employs 44,000 people in 108 manufacturing units. It has the largest industrial distributor network in the industry, with 17,000 distributor locations encompassing 130 countries. SKF's digital transformation journey began in 2017. We had a lengthy 7-month exercise that involved 40 to 50 people from various parts of the SKF organization. Participants included lead factory managers, OT architects, IT security, and some outside consultants as well. The exercise, the goal of the exercise was to identify both OT and IT requirements in order to achieve a digitalized SKF Smart Factory standard. And the approvers of the outcome of this exercise were the SKF Manufacturing Capability Council, as well as the SKF IT Architectural Council. The transformation walkthrough identified a series of building blocks which would be required in order for SKF to achieve the smart factory concept that we were looking for. Each of the building blocks was assigned to a team of individuals. The building block that I participated in was the industrial network building block. And within this building block, we needed to draft a key decision document, which identified network zoning concepts such as the IEC 62443 zoning standards. It identified the various network hardware, industrial network hardware that we were looking at for LAN, wireless LAN, and firewall within the factory. It identified how to achieve infrastructure resiliency. It identified a secure remote access solution for remote maintenance of machines. And we evaluated several suppliers and their industrial network components as part of this exercise. The key decision document related to the industrial network building block contained a number of OT and IT requirements and assumptions that needed to be addressed in order for us to identify an industrial network standard. Some of the OT requirements included the fact that the network hardware needed to be industrial network hardware so that it would survive the SKF factory environment. It needed to support machine protocols and have a rapid break fix methodology, which included SD cards so that configurations could be quickly moved to a spare part if needed to. It had to support network address translation because a number of our factories, channels, and cells use the same IP address scheme And so we need to be able to translate those IP addresses so we don't have duplicates throughout the network. It needed to provide an avenue to protect some of the end-of-life operating systems that we have within our channels. We needed to provide a cloud-based secure remote access solution for machine maintenance with as few VPN clients as possible and without using jump servers. We also wanted to have a secure method for an on-site OEM to be able to access the machine as well. We also had a requirement for audit reporting of the remote access, so factory managers could identify when OEMs were connecting to the machines, for how long, and what they were doing. And we also needed to have some form of safety consideration related to remote access maintenance being conducted. The OT participants were also very interested in identifying as cheap of a solution as possible, and they wanted it to be simple so that they could potentially deploy it and manage it themselves. Specific IT requirements that were identified in the key decision document included support for Radius and Active Directory, two-factor authentication for the remote access solution. The remote access solution also needed to be encrypted and support certificates. The remote access solution could not be active live 24/7. It needed to have some form of manual activation of it when OEMs needed remote control. IT security also wanted the ability to audit the capability of the solution, as well as provide input for the standard firewall policies. They also wanted the channel edge firewall to be capable of malware detection. When it came to the wireless solution for the factory, there was a lot of heated discussion about that because the requirements, the Wi-Fi requirements for the factory had similar requirements that the enterprise environment has as well. And so there was a lot of overlap there, and there was no way we could deploy two separate vendors' solutions because they would just step on each other and neither would then work correctly. So ultimately, it was agreed that the standard wireless solution for both enterprise and the factory would be the same, and that was the standard enterprise solution. So ultimately, at the end of several months of meetings, discussions, etc., we were able to draft a final copy of the industrial network key decision document, and it was shared with everyone involved in the digital transformation exercise. Everyone had the opportunity to review and comment so that we could make additional edits and updates to the key decision document. And then ultimately it was handed over to both the Manufacturing Capability Council as well as the IT Architectural Council for their review and approval. The outcome of which was the approval to go forward with a new standard industrial network solution for the SKF factories. So based on the outcome of the key decision documents for the industrial network and the approvals we got from the various councils, SKF selected Phoenix Contact to be the supplier for our standard industrial network hardware. And aside from procuring the hardware from Phoenix Contact, we also procure some additional Phoenix Contact services. One of the first things we did was we spun up an SKF dedicated mGuard secure cloud portal for our OEM third-party remote access. We also worked together with the Phoenix Contact combinations team to pre-design a number of network bundles so we could rapidly deploy an actual network to each channel or cell within our factories. These network bundles can be ordered with a single product number, so it really speeds up the deployment of our industrial network solution. SKF is also utilizing Phoenix Contact Network services to assist us with the design and implementation of our industrial networks at several of our SKF factories. And we are also using Phoenix Contact training services as well, so we can train our local OT and IT field service and maintenance staff on the product lines so that they can provide some level of support for the environments. This slide depicts our final industrial network design, which was approved by both OT and IT. We are using the mGuard Secure Cloud solution, a dedicated SKF mGuard Secure Cloud solution for our OEM remote access. There's a clear demarcation point between the manufacturing zone and the enterprise office zone, depicted by the red firewalls on this slide. We have deployed industrial backbones, core and distribution switches, and at each cell channel edge, we are deploying Phoenix Contact mGuards, which are firewall, router, VPN appliances. And within each channel, we are using Phoenix Contact managed switches. This picture also shows that we do have a DMZ set up, which hangs off of that enterprise firewall, and we host all of our platforms for applications on that DMZ as well. So as soon as we published that we had identified an industrial network standard, our SKF factories were all about it. They were like, how do we get it? How quickly can we get it? And we started rolling out industrial networks at several of our factories. And we pretty much had a cart before the horse situation because we didn't have a support model, even though we were rolling out these networks. So in the short term, we agreed, IT and OT agreed to set up a support model which involved local OT being level 1, our SKF IT field services were level 2, and Phoenix Contact is our level 3. And in doing this, we are using Phoenix Contact training to train the OT and the IT field services so they are able to do as much troubleshooting and support as possible. Our future mode of operation support model involves us identifying a global service provider who can put a service wrap around the industrial network environments. So in that scenario, they become our level 2. And they should be able to do the majority of what needs to be done when it comes to management, incident management, problem management, et cetera. And only if there's something that they cannot figure out, they reach out directly to Phoenix Contact. So the service provider will work closely with me as the SKF service owner, and we together will agree on any changes in our standards, designs, architecture, et cetera. The service provider will also be providing us a menu-based service offering. So not all of the services are mandatory to the factories. We have some factories with OT resources who are perfectly capable of managing and configuring these industrial networks, and they want to do it. But we also have factories that don't want to do that. So with regards to the global services, all of our factories will be required to have monitoring. So they will be monitored, e-health monitoring, so the health of the industrial equipment, as well as security monitoring. So they all have to sign up for that. But then we have some other optional services that they can pick a la carte. So if we have a factory that wants to do all of their configuration management themselves, they can do that. But if we have another factory that has no interest in being a network expert, they can call off that service and the global service provider will provide that for them. This slide shows how we are handling our manufacturing incident management. So in this slide, the brown area is where our global service provider will sit. And our global service provider will actually be the first point of contact for our level 1 resources. So even though we have the SIAM, which manages all of our other IT service providers, this global industrial network service provider still will be the first point of contact for our factories. And so they will drive all incidents, whether it's related to their scope of work with the industrial network equipment, or if it's determined that it might be something on the enterprise side, this industrial network service provider will still drive that incident because we have a 20-minute stopwatch repair requirement that needs to be addressed. And the best way for us to do that is to let this industrial service provider have complete control over any type of events or incidents that take place within our factories. Lessons learned by all through this digital transformation exercise, and I can say there were a lot, too many to list here, but I tried to cover as many of the ones that I felt were important to list. So safety is not a consideration of IT. It's not even on our radar. And obviously safety is a huge consideration by OT. In the SKF factory, for OT, protecting the process is way more important than protecting the data, which, IT security, that's its number one goal. If IT was not flexible regarding some of the OT requirements, our OT guys were just going to get up, walk away, and do their own thing anyway. So it was really important that we all sat and had discussions to understand everybody's requirements, why they felt those requirements were important. Patching and updates of our shop floor devices cannot follow the enterprise process. We can't push out patches to operating systems that could potentially stop working because of the patch. So we have to come up with a good process within the factory to do patching and updates. Not all OT resources are interested in being network experts for their environments. And as I explained earlier, that's why we're identifying a global service provider who could potentially put a service wrap around these environments for those factories who feel that way. The support model for local service must be thought out carefully and shared with all stakeholders. The demarcation points where the industrial IT architecture has a dependency on the enterprise architecture must be clearly defined. There's going to be support overlap, and it needs to be clear and agreed to between the suppliers. Your enterprise SLAs are not going to be the same as your industrial network SLAs. And so where those demarcation points are on the enterprise side, but they service your industrial network, like that LAN firewall or the DMZ where our servers sit. Those SLAs for those connection points need to be beefed up on the enterprise side, and your enterprise service provider or your local IT resources need to agree to do that. It is difficult to find a global service provider who can put a service wrap around industrial networks. It's uncharted territory. And I can say it's been a long 6, almost 7 months now, where we have been trying to find a service provider who has interest in putting a service wrap around industrial network components. A manufacturing IT organization may be necessary in order to build the bridge between OT and IT and to accommodate the immediate demands to digitalize. Sometimes it just makes sense to pull a group of resources out of IT so their focus and their processes can be defined within that manufacturing realm and speed up delivery, deployment, et cetera. And then eventually move it back into the IT organization once your goals have been met. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Right. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. First of all, thank you to all of you inviting me to this 25th Annual Art Industry Forum, and thank you also for attending these sessions. I'm Firdaus from Petronas, and today I will share our experience in Petronas Downstream strive for operational excellence through implementation of asset performance management. This will be my agenda for today. I will cover these 3 sections for today. Number 1, I will explain our effort in striving for world-class operational excellence. The second part, I will share on asset performance management. As you know, we are adopting GEAPM, and GEAPM is the solutions in delivering this. And the third section, I will share my challenges, conclusion, and way forward on achieving the operational excellence through asset performance management.
All right, now moving into the next agenda, Petronas Downstream strive for operational excellence. Currently, I'm in downstream, and we are responsible from the end-to-end value chain of refining crude oil into the product that consumer use. Our vision is to become a merit-based, high-performance business. We are committed to deliver the product that what customer wants. What we have here in downstream, we have petrochemical plants and also refining plants in Malaysia and as well and is in South Africa. To tackle the external factor or trends that further dampen our industry, Petronas Downstream has embarked on this organizational transformation. We call it OER2 transformation. OE stands for operational excellence. R2 stands for the result that we want to achieve. So what we are doing or what we are implementing in this transformation is implementing the standardized work process of how we do work more leaner and more productive. We implementing a management system that is standardized across organizations where all the requirements, all the records, all the best practice are retained in a single platform. And also we implement empowerment where we want the workforce to make their own decision make their own decision closest to where the action is in the plant. All right, moving forward, when we implement this transformation, there is an element of OER2 digital. We call it OER2 digital strategy. This is where we anchored our digital solutions to the work processes that we implemented. And the principles here is quite straightforward. So first, we identify and deploy what are the tools that is required to support the effective execution of the work process. And the selection of the tool must be driven by the work process requirement. And the goal is actually to make sure that the workforce or the work process can be executed more effectively. And we want to achieve seamless integration between digital work process, management system, and as well as empowerment. This is our aspirations. So when we implement the standardized work process across organization, everyone will get the same work process. They will have a similar roles. They will be using similar applications, similar digital tools, and to further enhance the productivity and to make sure that we can do more efficient, we would like to introduce this one device concept where all the tools being pre-installed and the workforce can use all the application in the plant. Case in point, what we have here today, we have Point. Point is an app for operators. This is in-house developed in Petronas. And we have enterprise content management, ECM. We have a OE dashboard. And later we're going to have GE APM rounds, operating rounds will be one of the app in this connected workforce. And furthermore, so this is not cast in stone, that we will further refine our requirements in realizing this connected workforce. The next slide, what I want to show here is an example how we overlay the work process or overlay digital on top of the work process. For example, here when we implement the standardized work process, case in point, if you look at the left-hand side, we have operation work process. When the shift team come to the plant, they will do shift handover, they will execute the task, and they will execute through a digital tool called Point, and they will carry the device to troubleshoot the equipment or do some operators round. And if there is a maintenance activity required, of course, they will escalate to maintenance crew, and maintenance crew will use another digital application, for example, SAP Primavera, and we're gonna have the Taloga there. And once the work is completed, normally all the work orders will be captured in our SAP. and our reliability engineer will gather all the information for him or her to come up with a better maintenance strategy in the future. So previously, most of the work has been done manually, but when we overlay our tools on top of the process, we can ensure that the work can be executed more efficiently, and the tools can be sustained. So case in point here, if we look at the reliability work process, this is where GEAPM sits in. Where previously the reliability engineer need to manually gather all the informations, he need to manually analyze the informations before propose recommendations. And our aspiration moving forward, when we have all the data connected, we're going to move into this space called advanced analytics and also descriptive analytics, where we can see the real-time performance of our plant and organizations, as well as we have a digital twin that can advise us when the equipment will break down, so that we can take action before the failure really happens. Right now, we move into asset performance management, and this is where I will share why APM is being selected in Petronas downstream and how we implement it. So basically, I believe you all already know what is asset performance management, APM. It is a system that integrates reliability and integrity work process in a single platform. So what we implement here in Petronas, we have all the APM classic suites integrated with our SAP, our CMMS, and it will change optimization for our maintenance crew to execute the work. APM brings a new way of working by allowing engineers to manage plant assets in a single platform. So traditionally, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of work process being executed manually. The solution is not integrated. There's a lot of multiple systems, and the work process, how we do work, is non-standardized. Data is scattered, high resource to do the analysis, and it is very reactive. So with APM, we are now moving into the new way of working, coupled with the work process. We will ensure that the adoptions of the tool is high, and as well as the value of having the new way of working being realized sooner. This is just to share our APM implementation in Petronas downstream. We have started the journey since 2019, and we have our brother in PRPC. We call it Petronas Refinery, petrochemical complex in southern of Peninsular Malaysia. So they have started to use APM in 2019, and right now we are in PCG, petrochemical plants implementation. We have PCG Group A and Group B. There's a total of 9 plants there. So we are now aiming for the package 3 to go live end of this year. And moving forward next year, we will start to implement in our refinery plants. So we have a refinery here in west coast of Malaysia, east coast of Malaysia, and another refinery in Durban, South Africa. Okay, I'm here to share as well our experience in implementing APM, and also what are the prerequisites required before we start to implement APM. So as you can see, first, I want to correct the perception that APM is not a magic wand that you can just plug and play and get the result instantaneously. So it is not. APM is not. It's not a magic wand. It's not plug and play. APM require a holistic end-to-end approach for you to implement it. So what I'm trying to share here is actually what we have experienced so far. For example, if you look at the top one in terms of APM design, first thing first, we need to establish or implement the standardized work process first before even you want to implement the system or software. And typically, for building the system is quite straightforward. So we started from DTA, Digital Transformation Advisory by GE Digital, and we then moved into analyze and design and system configuration. It took us around 6 months. The most difficult part is to ensure your SAP integration with APM, and then you need to ensure that the data in SAP, in terms of the asset structure, being clean up first, because if not, then you're going to have some trouble when you operationalize APM. You need to ensure that the data that being put in SAP is correct, so that APM will give a correct output when we run some optimization. So basically, that part took us around 4 months. And once we correct the data in our SAP, then we declare the system go live so that the user can start to use the system. But then again, because this is the implementation at brownfield, so we need to populate all the data in APM first. As you can see, we took around 1 year just to upload the data into SAP. So then when we get all the data in, we can start to operationalize APM. We can start to run strategy development optimizations, and we can execute the strategy in APM. And has this capability for you to integrate with third-party integration. So these are the things that we predefined earlier. What are the systems that we want to integrate with APM? First thing, I think, without saying, you need to integrate with your CMMS. Here in Petronas, we use SAP. So that is the first requisite. And to further get the value out of APM, we integrate with plant historian. We use PI historian as a historian, and it took us 6 months just to consolidate all the petrochemicals plant into a single integrated historian before we integrate and synchronize it with APM. The journey is around 6 to 2 months just for PI integrations. And next, we just deployed, we integrate with Asset Answer. This for online benchmarking. We have now maybe 4 plants that we can monitor real time. And furthermore, we are now still identifying what are the other third-party solutions or system that we want to integrate with APM. We are exploring either to integrate System 1 or our in-house advanced analytics called Pivot into APM. Okay, the last part, which I think the most important one, is the change management. Here in Petronas Downstream, we couple our organizational transformations together with the APM implementation. So when we embark or implement the work process, the system already ready, and they start to learn the new way of working together with the system. To ensure that all the roadblockers being removed, we have this quarterly management meeting or steering committee meeting. Then we involve all the users in the expert user training, user acceptance test, and then we conduct the role mapping of APM into our work process. We have this handheld or hand-holding session with a GE on site presentations, and to retain the knowledge of what we have learned together with GE consultants. So we have this online module training in downstream, so that the user can go and do some refresher of APM. So what I'm trying to tell here in this slide is actually there's a lot of effort that is required by you or by any organization to implement APM. You cannot implement APM just by implementing the system. You need to couple it with your work process or your business strategy, because in my experience, digital initiative cannot stand on its own. You cannot implement tools on its own. You need to couple it with your business strategy. You need to couple it with your transformation so that it can deliver greater value, and it can ensure that your system being used and sustained for a long period of time. Right now, what we have achieved, we managed to integrate APM with our SAP and Part Historian. We can see the real-time informations at our asset health. We have conducted around 2,000 failure analysis. There is 34,000 risks has been identified in APM, and there is around 36,000 recommendation action that we could implement in APM. And to date, since we managed to integrate with PI or Plant Historian, so we managed to get around 2,000 of health indicator in APM. Okay, in Petronas downstream, because the investment that we has made here is quite huge. So the success of APM is very important. And this is how we measure the APM success in Petronas downstream. If you look there are 5 levers. Number 1 is on the PDM versus PM work order ratio. This is to indicate the extent of predictive or proactive maintenance versus preventive maintenance. We know that traditionally we are into this time-based maintenance, but I think that strategy is quite resourceful, require a lot of efforts and manpower, and we are now moving into condition-based. So this work order ratio of PDM and PM is very important. Number 2 is on PM effectiveness. This is to indicate the proportion of preventive maintenance work that actually leads to avoidance of future failure. Because APM has these optimizations and it can measure the effectiveness of our PM. So this second levers or KPI is important for us to ensure that what we have asked our technician to do is the right PM. 3 and 4 is MTBF and MTBR. It indicate the time before failure and time to repair. And the last one is also important KPI, annual maintenance cost reduction. Again, as I mentioned just now, one of the selling point for EPM is that it has this capability to do optimization of our maintenance strategy. So having to see the annual maintenance cost reduction is important because we want to move from time-based into condition-based, and we should see some optimization in terms of our resources. Conclusion and way forward. Asset performance management adoptions, GEAPM, is a solution that is significant to Petronas. We have committed to ensure that it's successful in downstream, as the investment is quite significant, and we need to get the return of investment within these few years. Deployment across multiple plants in downstream is scheduled until 2021. And beyond technology, the change management, the attention to organizational change management is important success factor of any implementation. Case in point here, we call it OER2 digital. And number 4, APM, we believe it will help Petronas downstream to reach a world-class level of operational excellence and to attain a global competitive position. And thank you.
First, I'd like to thank ARC for giving me the opportunity to speak this year about Energy Transfer's 1 or 2 year journey now of achieving full digital transformation success in our business. Quick, who am I and who's Energy Transfer? Well, we're an energy company, right? We are one of America's largest portfolios of energy assets. This including pipelines, treating facilities, terminals, docks, everything that really goes around moving energy throughout the United States, Canada, and actually we do have some operations in China as well. It does include 90,000 miles of pipeline with almost 500 physical buildings in which we operate, and about 10,000 employees that are keeping things going. I work at Energy Transfer. I've been here for 10 years. I am over our operational data analytics group, our custom development areas, as well as our butane custom development shop as well. Before that, I did spend about 10 years at ExxonMobil in their space as well. So why did we need change? Well, we needed a digital vision to meet the growing demands of our industry. We were operating in a world of paper, right? It still existed, and people were still using Excel files to communicate, processing old reports, and making decisions off old data. And we needed to change that. So we needed to make something that would make us more nimble, make us more flexible, and let us get better decisions faster. And we wanted to introduce a concept of data sharing in our organization, right? Let's try knocking down silos and let everybody see the same thing rather than people using, you know, a digested version of somebody's report or somebody else's data sample. And we wanted this to help us leverage emerging technologies better, right? If we have better data, we have a better platform, and we have a true digital vision with digital transformation, we could adapt to these new things that are coming at us faster than we seem to know what to do with these days. So what did we do? Starting in July of 2019, we entered into a 2-year project with Capstone to deploy their data park enterprise solution across our entire system. And we wanted to really transform the way that we operated day to day. So over the past 16 months, we've developed a tight partnership with Capstone, bringing on some of their staff to augment our staff to help us realize this vision. We established a corporate central historian, so that's actually showing the same information to everywhere at any time, right? That's really key to truly achieving some of these successes, is making sure everybody's seeing the same thing. We've deployed 75 high-resolution data capture facilities. These are hybrid and local deployments at key areas in our company. And we've also enabled minimum visibility. This is at least, you know, a pressure, a temperature, or some sort of IoT sensor across our entire organization. That's all 90,000 miles of pipe. That's all 477 facilities in the organization. We're consuming multiple data sources to augment and enrich our data, which actually is kind of accumulated into about 4 million real-time data access points that our people now can see whenever they like, right? We've generated over 5,600 displays in the company. That's people using the system. We've enabled over 800 field personnel that are now actively using the system day in and day out. And we're doing with zero downtime, which has been phenomenal, right? Our business hasn't been interrupted, which is significant to our success. So how did we do all this, right? Well, we proved the concept first. We did not sell our management on pie in the sky and hypotheticals of we could do this if we had this. Well, we started small. We picked one key facility in our organization and we installed the system on there, and we started realizing real value really quick. And we were able to scale that really fast. So it wasn't art of possible. We had a reality. We were able to come with a concrete what, when, and how we plan to do this with our organization. And we had a great vision across the company, right? It was a single pane of glass into Energy Transfer's operation, full stop. That's what we wanted to do, and this is how we were going to do it. So while I'm kind of throwing out a couple buzzwords here, of course, you can't get away with not doing that these days, but we tried to dispense with those as much as we could. We wanted people to realize that this wasn't going to be a silver bullet solution, right? There we go. We had real work to do, and people were actually going to have to do it. It wasn't going to be a magic light switch where these things automatically happened. We involved all of our local leadership, right? Being a company that spans the entire United States, and now we're into Canada. We needed to bring all these managers in here. So we had a local conference. We flew them all in, and we got them to all see what we were trying to do. So that way we weren't going to be showing up at their doorsteps, knocking on their facility and saying, "Hi, we're the data park team, and here's what we plan on doing over here." And no, they understood why we were there, and they understood the value that they were going to get out of it. And we really saw that actually happen, right? We had a goal mark of 100 facilities. We wanted to name 100 facilities to go live within 2 years. And out of that conference, we had 400. We just stopped counting. We ran out of whiteboard space and scrapped the whole idea and started a different way to approach it. And we did that by doing an ROI evaluation, right? Where we said, look, if we can get $27,000 of value out of a facility in 3 years, it's a good candidate. and we still had over 400. So we ended up whittling those down after a little bit more work, but we got there. Of course, we established a good team. It's a mixture of IT and business. You can't do this alone. And we needed to bring in a strong project manager, and that's what we did. We got one of the designers of the IIS space station to work for us, and he's done a phenomenal job of keeping us on task. So, you can't get out of a presentation these days without talking about COVID-19, and this one is no different. COVID-19 did change everything for us, especially in our industry. Oil and gas was significantly impacted, at least for the first half of 2020, and we're still feeling it in 2021 here. But it was a reality check for us. We realized, not everybody's low risk. I think we all kind of came up to that, as we go further and further down this journey together. And enabling people to work remotely was key to their success, right? We had a lot of people who we know couldn't just be exposed, but they still brought a lot of value to the organization. And one thing that this project taught us was we did truly achieve this transformation of success because these people were still coming to the table and still attending things and were still in the loop and providing value where, they didn't need to just sit in front of the piece of equipment. We had a large reduction of travel, right? And people weren't moving around as much, but people were still doing it as much. They didn't need to drive their trucks 300 miles to go to the pump station to check on some equipment, right? They were looking at it virtually. And while of course this was unwelcome, just to say it again, is it did prove our success, right? When we went into full COVID lockdown, people were still working. People were still actively being able to do their job and provide the value that they would have been doing if they were on site. Of course, we still have a lot of people that have to be on site, but there are some people that just did not need to be. So results, we captured our ROI in 3 main categories. It was time savings, cost avoidance, and decision support. With about 1.5 years down our belt now, we've captured over $17 million in annualized savings with the system. That's something that we've been able to quantify. There's a lot more we can't quantify. These are the things that are coming in through official channels where the people are saying, I would like to do X because here's what I can get out of it. But, we do have a lot of people who are just using the system and saving time all over the place, and that's hard to quantify. So I believe that number is a little bit understated, but that's the number that I definitely have in stone. So we actually saw it, right? We saw digital transformation come through. We're seeing people's behaviors change. See that through conversations that are changing, right? Optimization and operation utilization. Those are becoming a hallway conversation in a lot of meetings that we're attending now. IT, while this project maybe originated in IT, it's a partnership with operations, but we see IT being invited to a lot more meetings with operational people to see how we can provide value to what the problems that they're having. Decision support, we're able to look at things that we couldn't before. We're adding validation to the decisions we had been making, which has been extremely interesting. And we're able to realize some pipe dreams, right? Or stuff that we just couldn't even do before. What does that one big, white paper look like, or that one infographic look like that shows the company as a whole and how we're doing? Now those things are possible. We're empowering the other systems, right? We're filling in gaps. We're reducing CapEx spend. Because we're not needing to build all these other things to do what just getting the data in one place can do, right? We're not building all these little siloed systems. Automation is helping all over the place. So safety, of course, being an oil and gas company, we're very, very safety conscious. And if we could reduce windshield time, people driving from point A to point B, that's just better for everybody. And we're doing that as well. So, at the end of the day, we're making better decisions faster, which has been the key to our success to make this work. Finally, challenges. We did have a couple challenges. We had to start from the ground up. We had to do a lot of education in the company to make sure people understood what we were doing, how to do it, and what they could do with it. That has been significantly successful for us. We started with Capstone doing a lot of the training, and now that's all internal. It's all done by our teams. Which has been interesting because the more training we do, it seems like more value we get out of the systems. The more we're educating, more ideas, stuff that we didn't even think were possible or even thought of, people bring to the table, whether it be, some sort of heat exchanger monitoring or pump curve monitoring or alarming, or now we're actually getting into the AI modeling side where we're starting to model equipment and detect anomalies on these equipments are not performing the way we should be, even though all the sensors say they're good. But when you look at the models, they actually say they're bad. And you know, it was finding the right tool for us, right? We did a lot of evaluation. What was best for us? We needed a one-stop shop. We evaluated a lot of different vendors to do this. We needed a company that had interest in our success. We didn't want it to be just another, you know, another account. And we wanted to leverage our existing tool set. Our company is very large. We've invested a lot in the things that we've built, and we needed something that could play with us rather than against us. And it wasn't something that we needed to buy add-ons for. So yeah, it's been you know, some challenges, but not challenges that couldn't be overcome anywhere. So what's next for us? You know, CapEx is down. It's going to be down for a while in oil and gas, and it's going to continue to be down for a while. So we're going to continue investing in this system because this system is providing value. So we plan on tripling our footprint in the next 3 years, and bringing more and more high resolution displays and systems into our big corporate historian, and then start building out and keep going. Thank you.
Hello and welcome. My name is Justin Conroy and I work for Radix Engineering and Software here in the United States. And today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Juliema Bonicenia, who is a Senior Engineer and Industry 4.0 Specialist for Klabin. The presentation you're going to see today is over a project that Radix did with Klabin in order to implement a cloud-based architecture that allows the Klabin team to do risk analysis, process data visualization, and root cause analysis from anywhere in the world, which is of course important during this pandemic. And it allows them to do their work between 11 and 20 times faster, depending on their situation. So with that, I'll pass this over to Juliema.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate the introduction. And now we'll talk about the Process Intelligence Project. And I would like give some introduction about Klabin. You are the pulp and paper company. You have 121 years in the market. You have 24 industrial units. You are the largest producer and exporter of baking paper in Brazil and a leader in production of packing paper. You probably have in your home some products like this made for our paper. You decide getting a step back and you create a digitalization master plan. The work belongs for 4 months and you can see the 24 areas. And you map it 223 pain points and you convert these pain points in 182 opportunities. For this project and specifically, you get 9 pain points. You analyze this and convert this to opportunities, to 6 different opportunities. But in this project, you decide join these opportunities for only one project that I present to you. The purpose of this project is increase deviation response speed based on process knowledge. For this, we create a plan to resolve process issues. And this plan is based on 3 levels. The level 3, you have our process engineers. To this, I decide to create an analytics tool, and this tool is created due to study data to discover the problem issues, root causes, and knowledge the process. After the study, understand more the process, and you was capable to create the specifications and to keep the process in control. You get all of this stuff generated here. You get and send and configure here on level 2. On level 2, we have the engine of the system, and this is capable to monitoring the process and alert the operations when necessary. If any variable here is outside the control, the system look and alert the operations. Just engine work 24 hours a day. On level 1, you have the operations, give the alerts and the recommendations for the system, and make decisions and actions in the process effectively. When you start this project, you have some questions, how to begin, where to start. You have a lot of information, and for this, I decide arrange the house. And you choose the database. You have the system 3 main databases. We have the PIN system, and when all the process data is collected in the history here. We have the lean system. In this, we have the quality and lab data, and easy system. It's a vision system. This is capable to detect the defects in paper and monitor better the process. And the next step, you look in data, you understand the database, understand how I'm connected, which one. And the next step, you rename variables based in pattern. You create a pattern, and you rename, in this case, 33,000 variables to the same pattern. And you delete all the unused variables. You make a clean in this databases. And the last step, we give context to process variables. And here we have the example of the process variables is organized by equipment belongs and the area and the process. And after that, this is the architecture created to support this project, and the part of that is on site, and the other part is on cloud. And here you have our main database. You have the collection system. Collection system gives the information to two ways. The first way is give the information to engine that monitor the process, and another way you collect all this data and organize and relationship this data and save on one unique database. And when aggregate our sources in a simple database, you enable us to new projects more quick and cheaper. This is a highway we pave, and here you have the analytics system, and the credit project we have another system, and you have connected to the dashboard system too. And we had to plan projects in the future connected to this database too. When you give the data more available, you have the new horizon. For example, now we don't have history storage problem with the data. You have the graphical analysis capacity. You have the correlation with the process data, and you have capacity to volume analysis about all this data and understand more deeply the process. And the process analytics software, we created this software based on statistical techniques. And here we have, for example, graphical analysis, simple correlation, regression, FFT analysis. You have PCA, PLS, and you have Hoof cards analysis. And inside this, you have a lot of algorithms like machine learning. And this is the tool to analyze and discover the process better. You have the increased performance too compared to the old tools, and now you have live time is more faster. And in this time of pandemic, all of the people stay in home office. In home office, in our case, you have need connection and VPN. Compared to VPN, it is more slow. Our system is 20 times more faster. On the quality mode, we have the process limits, quality limits, trend analysis. It's common for operators to follow the process through any trends, visualize it, analyze the past data, and make a regression to the future. And if the future data is outside the control, we alert operations. And the last one, you have the QX metrics, is based on TPM methodology. This connected the defect to the causes that generated to the equipment components. And if any condition is outside the control, this system alert the operations to the defected probability is increased. And we have a lot of lessons learned in these projects. The first one I talk here is never underestimate IT problems. This project has a specific all of connections, all of interfaces, all of IT teams involved, and this is all important. You plan it and keep this together. A recommendation I give is try to select solutions designed for your scenarios. You haven't marked any solutions. You understand your scenario first. After that, you choose the solution, not the opposite. And the last one is take care of the cloud, because if you not select the right tool, you lost money. With this, thank you for listening today. I hope this information was helpful. I thank you for your time, and with that, I pass back to Dustin.
Thank you, Juliema, and thank you for sharing your story and the results that Klabin was able to achieve with this project. It's truly amazing. And thank you, the viewer, for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we really hope that you enjoyed seeing the results that Radix and Klabin were able to achieve together during this project. Juliema and I will be available during the Q&A sections after the presentations today. Hope to see you there. Have a good day.
Well, I'd like to invite all the speakers and panelists back. I just want to really thank you for doing, all of you, an outstanding job, and we really appreciate the wide depth and breadth of all your presentations. So that was really great. I think what I'd like to do right now is, since the panelists haven't had a chance to speak yet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and ask the panelists to introduce themselves, and I'll start off with Jared Hartness.
Thanks, Craig. So nice to meet everybody. Jared Hartness with G Digital. I'm the Director of Industry Solutions for our oil and gas chemical APM business, if you will.
Okay, great. Athos?
Hello, everybody. My name is Athos. I am a senior developer at Radix, and I help develop the solution of Klabin with everything on the cloud.
Okay, great. Alex Tate.
Hey, my name is Alex Tate with Capstone Technology. I'm an area manager and applications expert working with energy transfer.
Okay, great. And Dan Schaefer?
Hi, I'm Dan Schaefer, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Phoenix Contact USA for our cybersecurity and industrial networking product lines. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you all for being here. You know, if I start to look at some of the questions that we've gotten, and I would say this would be for all the speakers across the board, is where did the idea originate for your project? I mean, was it coming from senior management? Was it driven from the top down, from the bottom up? Was it driven by one of your customers? And I'll start off with Tyler on that one.
Hey, thanks, Craig. Yeah, for us, it actually, I'm going to pat myself on the back on this one, and I was one who drove it originally. One of the hats that I wear here at Energy Transfer is, our operations custom development group. And, we had a need for this on the fringe when we first went into our Mont Belvieu facility. And I saw the need of that data elsewhere in the organization, but it was just unobtainable. So I really championed it with my local management, and then brought it just to our senior executives. We have a very open door policy here. So for us just to walk into a C-level office with a piece of paper and a proposal is something that's very welcomed here. So yeah, that's how we did it.
Okay, that's great. How about you, Mary?
Yeah, so we got direction from our CEO. Basically, in order for us to stay competitive, he really pushed for us to start the digital transformation process 3 years ago.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Ulama.
Yeah, we started the digitalization transformation 2 years ago, and we decided to get all the information, all the stuff collected and analyzed with all of the people to create a new path.
Okay. Now, Furtis he's from Malaysia, so I think it's the middle of the night over there. So I'll ask Jared if he could probably knows the answer to that question from Petrobras.
Yeah, and it's, I'll speak kind of in general. I think it starts with, you got to have buy-in, just top down in general. If it's going one way or the other, you're going to run into change management problems. So what we see is whether it starts at the top or it's something, mid-level in the organization that is seen as a need and there's ROI there, you got to have that alignment. I mean, that's with any technology implementation, and that certainly is what they took advantage of at Petronas and ensured that they had top to bottom.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Alex, what's your perspective on that as far as certainly working with Tyler?
Yeah, I can say I work with a lot of different industries, but one thing that was pretty unique is, I think we saw a lot of local need for something, but it was really Tyler and his group that went down to that local level to really understand, what was the ask and why was there a gap between what they had and where they wanted to be. And then they took that and then they were able to apply that vision across the entire enterprise, and the speed with which they were able to do that and the buy-in and the integration with operations is something that even in my space, I would say is extremely uncommon.
Okay, and Dan, certainly working with Barry.
So I'm afraid I don't see the question that came in on that.
Yeah, what that question is it's really, where did the idea originate for the effort?
Okay. My apologies.
Not a problem.
So with that, we worked together for about 3 years, and taking her idea, we tried to collaborate from multiple layers, not just top down, but also kind of grassroots, and try and understand exactly what they were looking for, and make sure that we were checking the boxes, not just from a technology side, but from a relationship side.
Okay, and Athos was certainly working with Ulma. As far as where did the idea originate for the effort when you were working together?
This was
Yeah, probably just a microphone issue right now, Athos. If you could just check your microphone, please.
this thing right now.
Yep. Perfect.
Yes, this project came from Julimar. Yeah, we are just a third-party developed software. We are partnering with Clouding for doing this. So Julimar already has it.
Okay, good. I have another question here, and I think actually we'll start this off with Julimar, and then we'll probably work our way around. So it's really, how does one go about starting this digitalization effort? Or whether some people whether they use the term digital transformation or digitalization, or as far as they're going forward to part of maybe their IIoT convergence journey. How does someone start the plan?
Yeah, we start with some benchmarks. It's very important to us, and visit other companies, and saw that we had a lot of initiatives going on, but in isolation teams, we have some problems with that. Some teams have capable to execute and then contract something, but it's not connected. That is why we decided to create a plan to focus the force and give visibility to the projects, make the projects have a greater capacity, not only serve only one area.
Okay. What about you, Tyler? As far as again, how does one go about getting started?
So for us, we got started, like I mentioned, at one place, right? We had to really focus in on what we were going to do and how we wanted to do it. So we started with a place that was going to make the company a lot of money, and a place that makes our company a lot of money. So it was a no-brainer to start there, get buy-in there, because those people, when they had buy-in, it was able to easily get our top-down approval at that point, right? So we started at the bottom, and then we went right to the top, and then started working our way back down again.
Okay. And what about you, Mary? As far as getting starting the plan.
Yeah, so I think I said in my presentation, the start of our plan was this whole exercise where we brought everybody to the table. I mean, everybody from all realms of the company to the table, so we could all identify, what the requirements were, the assumptions were, and to gain trust. IT needed to gain the trust that OT was going to do the right thing, and OT needed to gain the trust from IT that we weren't just going to shove our requirements and standards, at them and tell them it was this way or no way. So that's pretty much, the whole meeting of the minds was huge. It was really important to go forward.
That's great. Now, Jared, were you certainly working with Furnace? Could you speak how they got started?
Metrics, same, very similar. Starts with the business metric you're trying to move. He touched on it. and this is an approach we take with everybody, is the technology, although that is the ultimate, purchase or investment you're making, it really should be the last element of it, because it starts with that business metric. How are we going to move it, align it to work processes, thinking about data, what data matters in terms of the processes we're trying to move, and then what technology ultimately do you need to embed within those work processes to move the needle on the metrics. So they're an excellent example of really taking that, starting with the numbers and then working down through it.
Okay. What about you, Atos? Certainly working with Julema. As far as, again, just, starting, help, how did you, when you getting started?
We develop a plan first. We think about how we would like to deploy the system on the clouds. We planned our database, planned all the systems we had, like using Kubernetes and Kafka. So we plan every step from the premises to store all the data to the cloud, and to have the resilience to not lose any data on the process. So we start from the basis, and on top of that, we are planning every step to save it on the cloud.
Okay, and Alex, certainly work with Tyler.
Yeah, it's very involved in a lot of ways in what we did. But I think one of the things that I would say is a little bit unique. Obviously, we start with a business case. Everything is beholden to actually achieving something. If the technology is all you end up with, then you haven't done what you set out to do. But really, I think one of the key pieces that we may not have mentioned, but that was probably pretty important, was just I guess I'd call it corporate uniformity, but local flexibility. Oftentimes when we get started on some of these things, everyone tries to boil the ocean. And at some level, especially in industries where you have a lot of different assets that have been acquired over time, they've got different infrastructures. If you try and do it all at once, you end up getting a bit stuck, right? The cost to move that ship is just too great. So identifying, at what point does it make sense to move things and get consistency, and at what point do you need that flexibility where you don't interrupt the business at the local level? And that really just empowered the adoption, right? That lets you move at a quick pace and actually get some operational savings as part of that process.
Okay, and Dan, what you up as far as getting started with Mary?
Sure. What was really nice in the collaboration with Mary is SKF kind of started with the end in mind. They didn't just, there's a tendency to say, oh, I want to digitalize today, or hey, we should really IIoTize our company because it gets shoved down your throat. But SKF did a good job laying the groundwork. They understood what they wanted to do in terms of security and uptime and cost savings. So then it becomes a matter of, well, how do we achieve that? What data are you looking for? I think Jared referenced this. Understanding the data and the metrics that you're shooting for gives you a leg up in solving that problem, and then it just becomes tactical as opposed to strategic.
Now here's one that will also make the rounds with, because it's certainly applicable for everyone. I think I'll start with Tyler. Is how have employees responded to the transformation efforts in the new technology? I know it's a lot of times the culture is more important than the technology as far as the success of the project. So what were things like with you, Tyler?
So for us, with what we were driving, we were showing people how they were getting value, and we spent a lot of effort on educating people on what was coming down the pipe and why we were doing these things. It wasn't an approach of, well, here's the new IT tool and you're going to use it whether you like it or not, which is kind of the typical approach you see many times. There's a lot of the big names, 3-letter names that are out there that come down, right? We spent a lot of that time on educating. We still do. We have a very strong cadence on the way we educate. We host virtual classes every couple of weeks in the company, and it's anybody can attend. And that's driven a wildfire adoption. We haven't seen any resistance in the organization when it comes to going to a new facility. In fact, we have a backlog of facilities that we're going to on our prioritization list. And even while we're giving this presentation, Q&A, my phone has been ringing. I can see it across my desk. I'm sure whenever it's a new caller from internal in the company, I know it's somebody about our enterprise system, just because it's like I said, we're probably adding 20 new users a day across the organization. So it's growing extremely fast.
Wow. How about you, Mary? I know we are coming at it from the IT side.
Yeah, so I can say that our factory managers are pretty happy with the situation. I mean, they've wanted to connect for a while. The majority of them did not want to be the experts regarding how to connect. And so once we agreed on what this standard was going to be, they jumped on board. Like I said in my presentation, they were all about it. Like how can we get it done and how fast can we get it done? And especially with regards to the secure remote access solution that Phoenix Contact offers, many of them were like, where has this been for the last 10 years? Because they're all doing their own thing for remote access, most of which is not secure. And so IT security was happy that at least now they were willing to use something that was secure, and they had a little more control over the auditing capabilities and as well as setting up the profiles for their OEMs. So there was kind of, like I said, a meeting of the minds at the table, a little compromise from both sides.
Yeah, and that's great, especially certainly apropos with the pandemic and with all the remote access that was required.
Exactly. Yeah.
What about you, Julema? As far as
It's more complicated thing on these projects, but in our case, you decided take closer the end users. All those projects, before they start the project, before they choose the provider, for example, you involve the team, the end user, all of the projects, independent of the level of the user. For example, you have one project you created for us to our end user. With us, I'll sell our product, and I'll involve the user to provide some information and relationship with the project.
Mm-hmm. Jared, can you certainly speak for Furtis?
Yeah, it was interesting because we were actually talking about that when we were putting together this presentation. Was if you looked at his timeline in terms of the different business units within Petronas downstream when they were going to roll it out, it very closely aligned with the pandemic timeline. And so from a change management training perspective, obviously, if anybody's read anything about, I'm sure this is multiple industries, but in refining, they're pushing turnarounds out for, multiple years in certain situations, just because you can't have site censuses at that level, much less let vendors on site to do what you would think, traditional training and getting users engaged. So it's been kind of twofold, right? How do you take advantage of digital elements in terms of like we're doing here with training? But also, I think kind of backing up from that in general, it's forced us as a vendor to look at the way we train and enable users in terms of exactly what is that user or that persona within the area of the solution that they're going to use. What is the set of information they need to know? Do they really need to sit in a training class all day long? So I think it's twofold, right? It's certainly with them, it presented some challenges, but in general, I think us as a vendor, and it'll have benefits for our customers, it's pushed us to new areas of efficiency in terms of change management.
Yeah, true. Dan, what's your perspective, certainly, on what you noticed from some of the people that you were working with at SKF?
Sure. One of the great things that Mary and her team did at SKF was they got local champions, both on the plant side and on the IT side. They built allies on both sides. So OT got better support. They were able to get better operational data, so they could do their jobs better. IT got standards, they got compliance, they got manageability, they got security. So it was positioned as a win-win, which makes everybody happier. She mentioned at the onset, one of her very first slides was that big 40 to 50% group. Within that, there was compromise on both sides. There was a meeting of the minds to get the other side's perspective, and the recognition that, you have to put an olive branch out now and then, and IT had to make some concessions, OT had to make some concessions. So, in the end, I think it ended up being very smooth because there was such a collaborative approach from the very beginning. And I've heard nothing but positive feedback from all of her users on both sides.
No, that's great. And Atos, you worked with Julima's group.
We are seeing a high user adoption. We have received feedbacks from them every day requesting new features for the software. And they also asking to do more training because they really want to use it. So it's really great. It was really good team to develop for them.
Okay, and Alex, I guess you'd be the last respondent of the day because I think we've already hit the magic 4:30 mark. But please go ahead.
Sure. I think one of the things that's just pretty cool to see with a lot of these efforts is just, it seems like people are just capable of a whole lot more than we've historically allowed them to do. So sometimes something as simple as making these things available to them, letting them get to the data that they've always needed and wanted to use. It doesn't take much, right? So if you can enable that, people they'll make the savings, right? It seems like oftentimes we put too many barriers in place and people modify their behaviors, not because it's the right thing, but because it's just too hard to do the right thing. So I think this project in general has just been an awesome show of what you can do when you give people the information they need.
Well, you've all done an amazing job. We really appreciated your presentations and your input on the panel. We hope certainly to see you next year, hopefully live at the ARC forum. This concludes this week's program of the ARC virtual forum. But next week, if you have interest in the smart buildings, smart cities, supply chain, we have a pretty extensive program that continues next week, and we look forward to a lot of you attending and participating in that as well. But again, thank you to my great panel and speakers today. This is Craig Resnick with the ARC Advisory Group. I want to thank you so much. Stay healthy, stay safe, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.